When you have a pretty busy work life and kind of like you're working a lot of times on pretty serious things, and sometimes like the week can feel like just go, go, go. Sometimes I don't even know like when I ate, And so being able to kind of like be like, okay, I got up today and I got ready and I made my coffee and I sat down and I thought about the background of this conversation.
Not what you might usually think about, right?
Things that I wouldn't usually think about. Exactly. And so having this and kind of just sitting down and like taking a moment for myself, which is what this feels like, this conversation feels like, is a big win. For me, it's a really big win.
Hey there, and welcome to Impact After Hours, where changemakers sign off from work and log into life. I'm Camila Rente, CEO and co-founder of Human Group Media, and your host. Today, I'm excited to find out what Bhumika Regmi, Director of Digital Communications and Creative at the Malala Fund, is really like off-duty. Imagine getting hired for your social media skills, and not just by any organization, but one that is co-founded by Malala Yousafzai, the youngest ever Nobel Peace Prize winner and one of the most globally recognizable activists of our time. Bhumika rose up the ranks at the Malala Fund. In her current role, she brings their storytelling and digital campaigns to life. But if there was a through line that defined Bhumika's career so far, it's her passion to fight for girls' access to education, which also means fighting for their future. Bhumika, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Camille. Wow, what an intro.
I mean, you deserve it. We had a great conversation a while back, and you did tell me the story of, you joining the Malala Fund, but I want to get started with a bigger milestone that I felt like you celebrated recently. You went back to Nepal. I believe you lived in Nepal before you moved to the U.S. for college, right?
Yes. And sort of.
Yes. And something happened recently. That's a huge deal. You got married.
That's where you're going with this.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I did get married in Nepal, which is really, really nice.
Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
I guess I'll start with why did you choose to have your wedding there, and what was the planning like?
Oh my God. The reason we chose to have the wedding in Nepal is, well, that's where I'm from. And, I think I was really excited by the idea that my partner and his family and all of our friends would get to celebrate us in a place that felt so special to me and true to me. And you just can't replace that, Like you can't replace that with any like destination wedding or whatever it is. Just the feeling of knowing that all of these people who've known you in a different part of your life now get to see you in the origins of your life, like where you really started everything, is amazing. It's spectacular. Highly recommend.
Yes, I recommend, except for the whole planning from afar, because my husband and I also celebrated or had our beach wedding in the Philippines, where we're originally from, over 5 years ago. And we, obviously it was, the best day of our lives. All of our family and friends were there, but needing to plan and coordinate from thousands of miles away with like the time zone difference and all of that, it was a phase in our lives.
Oh girl, I know.
Yes.
You don't have to tell me. That was a challenge. Yeah. So to answer your question, that was the planning from afar is really tough. As if wedding planning isn't tough as it is. You're doing it in a different time zone. And for us too, we were trying to plan a wedding that made sense for my partner, who is Tamil, South Indian and American, and then me being Nepali, like trying to merge all of those different, three cultures into one wedding. Ooh, it was a lot. But, every time I think about it, I'm so happy. So I guess ultimately that's the goal, right? With weddings is you want to think back and be like, wow, yeah, that was the best time.
Well, again, congratulations, Bhumika. So we talked a little bit about you living in Nepal and then moving here, but if you could give your younger self 2 pieces of advice, one about the current work that you do and one about just like life in general, what would that advice be?
I think, when you're younger and you think about your future and who you're going to be and what you're going to accomplish, there's so much anxiety that comes from that, right?
Yes.
And I think that, things work out. And I think whatever path you go in, ultimately you make it your own. Mm-hmm. There is no such thing as like, what is the right direction for me? There shouldn't be. I think you take a step at a time and that step leads you to the next step and the next step and the next step. And whatever your direction you go in, it was meant to be. It's, like there's no such thing as like, I don't look back ever and think, dang, like, I wish I did something else. I wish I took a different step because all of those steps led me to exactly where I am, and that's okay. I would tell my younger self that, like, that's how it's going to be is, nothing is really panned out. You just kind of take a step at a time and everything will work out.
Knowing that things will work out, it's not an easy thing to grasp, especially when you're in the thick of things and you're kind of going through certain challenges in your life and in your career, but they do.
They do. Yeah.
Since we're on the topic of careers and, like you and your journey, how is it like working for an organization like the Malala Fund?
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I've been working here for 8 years. And so it's hard to describe, right? Because I've been here for such a long time and really kind of built my career here. And so it's hard to describe what it's like. I've changed, my roles have changed, the organization has gone through shifts. Malala was a different person. She's a different person now. As we all do, we grow. And she was so young when she founded this organization. Now she's no longer a girl, right? She's, and so all of those things factor into just the experience being constantly sort of like shifting and changing in a good way. I think that I've just had so much growth. And I don't mean that just in terms of like, rising through the ranks, but just had so much personal growth and learning here that, I really, really, really appreciate my 8 years here. I wouldn't have changed it for anything, really.
I mean, not a lot of people could say that, right? Like, and also the longevity of your career within the organization that really, speaks to, your talent and skills. And I agree, organizations grow and, there are changes here and there, but you've managed to, grow within the company, within the organization. Yeah. We promised you one thing, and that is we will have fun during this conversation. So as advertised, we do want to switch gears and play a lightning round of seemingly random questions with you. So are you ready to play?
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
So you are doing some spring cleaning. What is an item that you usually get rid of and one that you have a hard time saying goodbye to?
What's a good one? Get rid of shoes. Mm-hmm. Have a very hard time getting rid of clothes. Gotta say.
Why? I need to know this. Why?
Because, shoes, there's like only a certain period of time that you can wear a pair of shoes, right? It shows. It's worn out. Like, shoes wear out. So it's a lot easier to be like, this has lived its life.
Oh, okay.
It's time to go. But I have a hard time letting go of things that I've had. I'm definitely one of those people who needs a Marie Kondo in her life, like needs somebody to be like, no, you don't actually really use that.
Yes, it lives in your closet and hasn't seen the light of day.
So that's hard. But I did get rid of a lot of clothes recently, so proud of myself.
Yeah, pat yourself on the back. Next question. What is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, okay. My favorite ice cream flavor has to be matcha and Earl Grey.
Okay, you're a girl after my own heart. I love matcha.
I didn't actually even know it as matcha. I knew it as green tea ice cream growing up. I lived in Mongolia for a part of my life, as you were hinting earlier, that I didn't always live in the US. And I had friends who were from Japan, and her mom would make green tea ice cream at home. They had an ice cream machine, and ever since, it's been my favorite. Nothing beats it.
Japan is also like a huge part of my life. My parents used to work there. So when I was really young, we would go there every summer. And I felt like matcha was like just a staple. It wasn't like something that just came out of nowhere for me. But I'm glad that people are appreciating it because it is very yummy. Yes. I always look for matcha also when I'm at an ice cream shop. Okay, plans with friends get canceled. Are you secretly relieved you can stay in or bummed that you won't be going out?
I hate to admit that it's the former. I'm secretly happy.
This is a safe space.
Yeah. I say I'm like an extroverted introvert in that like very social, got a lot of friends, love them to death, love hanging out with them. But getting myself to leave my apartment is a task. It's a task. And so when something gets canceled, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, good. I get to just be cozy on my couch. But I know it's good for me to leave, but there is a relief.
Yes. I feel like it's a win-win, to be honest with you. Like whether you go and actually, pull yourself together and dress up and, make that effort, something good comes out of it. But if you stay home and, you can relax and, watch your favorite show or something, it's still a win. Okay. Speaking of watching something, would you rather spend a day binging a TV series or having a movie marathon?
TV series. Definitely binging TV series. No doubt. That's an easy one.
If you were one of the seasons, Bhumika, winter, spring, summer, or fall, what season would you be?
I would be between a spring and fall. For sure. I'm not a summer girly. That's for sure. Spring, because I think there's that, again, it's that like introverted or extroverted introvert thing. So there's a side of me that's very spring, like out there, happy, colorful, joyous. And then there's the side of me that kind of just wants to like be bundled up and be in my layers. And that feels more like fall.
Yeah, those are my two favorite seasons too. Minus the spring allergies. I do love spring. I know you're based in D.C., right?
Yeah.
You're usually okay. Describe the perfect weekend you would plan for someone who is visiting D.C. for the first time.
Oh my gosh, this is like my my thing. I love showing people around. And I think I would start off with going to my favorite restaurant in DC. It's called Astoria. I love it. It's this it's Sichuan Chinese food. And they have decorated it to look like a New York subway. That sounds really strange, but it's a lot better than it sounds. I
am going to Google that as soon as we get off this recording.
It looks, it's more abstract than I'm describing it.
Yes,
but,
yes.
The food is absolutely phenomenal. I love it so much that me and my husband, we signed our official marriage papers there, and we got some photos done, and yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
So I would definitely take them there for dinner. So we'd start at home, maybe have a drink or so, go to Astoria for dinner, and then just bar hop, go to my favorite sort of drink spots in town. I love myself a good dirty martini. So, that's always my go-to. So I would do that. And then, I don't know. I think the next day, it depends on the energy levels and how hard we went.
And the weather.
and the weather. But I think a lot of people, they come to DC and they, it's like monuments and things like that, which is all great. But I think that people don't often, unless you have someone to visit here, people don't often see DC for its just kind of like life.
Yes.
They see it for its monuments, which is so different. The vibe is just so different. So I would stray away from the monuments for a couple of days. I would, not the first 2 days. I think I would do sort of more like, like outings, walk around town, things like that. But then the monuments I would schedule for the third day and have it be something that's in the evening, not in the daytime. Because there's something really nice about the sun going down around the monuments. And then the lighting, like the monuments get lit up and it's really beautiful and calm. It's not crowded like in the daytime or like really hot when you're walking around and sweaty. So that's my preferred way of going about.
I feel you really sold me on this whole itinerary.
Yes.
So let's move on from travel and relaxation. This one is about teaching. So kind of like related, but if you could teach a master class in any topic outside of social impact, what would it be and why?
I'm definitely one of those people who has too many hobbies and not any of them that I like practice to the extent that I could be an expert,
Yes.
But I love cooking. Like absolutely love. It is my sanctuary. It is what I do when I need to like just, other than TV, what I do when I need to kind of just like feel creative and, just like have a nice moment at home.
What do you like to cook?
I experiment. So I do a lot of sort of like fusion things. I love mixing, like I said, my favorite restaurant's Astoria's. I really love like Sichuan food. And so I do a lot of fusion cooking at home that integrates Sichuan flavors, sometimes with Nepali flavors or Indian flavors, and just kind of do like fusion foods. My husband is my guinea pig.
Yeah.
We'll try all of my different dishes and he likes it. So I think I must be doing something right. But yeah, that's like my thing. So I would do a cooking class, I think. Although I don't know, master class is not the right platform probably for cooking.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, maybe I could teach sort of around like using cooking as the creative outlet or something along those lines.
All right, fill in the blank. Today's small victory was?
Today's small victory. Honestly, I mean, it's still relatively early. So today's victory is getting up, getting in the mindset of like, oh, I'm going to have this conversation with Camille. And just like taking a light day, just kind of having a fun conversation with you. It might not sound like a big deal, but like when you have a pretty busy work life and kind of like you're working a lot of times on pretty serious things, and sometimes like the week can feel like just go. Sometimes I don't even know like when I ate, And so being able to kind of like be like, okay, I got up today and I got ready and I made my coffee and I sat down and I thought about the background of this conversation.
Not what you might usually think about, right?
Things that I wouldn't usually think about. Exactly. And so having this and kind of just sitting down and like taking a moment for myself, which is what this feels like, this conversation feels like, is a big win. For me, it's a really big one. So,
well, I'm glad that we contributed like positively to your day.
Very positively.
Bhumika, we have come to the end. I want to know, what is your go-to after hours media? What have you been watching? We talked a little bit about that. Watching, listening to, or reading lately.
I'll talk more about podcast and a book that I'm reading. Podcasts that I really, really enjoy and highly recommend to anybody. One is it's Science Versus. I really, really, really like listening to it. It's, especially at a time when like there's just so much rhetoric and just like things flying around. And in the age of social media, I think like, even small things like balancing your hormones it's like you're bombarded with it, right? Like, and so the podcast kind of dissects that, like science versus hormone balance. Like what does science say versus what are people saying? And then kind of like does an analysis of that. And so it's a really fun listen, but it's super informative. So if you're someone like me who like, you know, I spend a lot of time kind of doing like thoughtless things like watching a ton of TV, but then I also like to have activities that like I like to be productive while I'm relaxing, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense to me.
Yeah, getting this kind of like really informative content, absolutely love it. Just love it. And then I also listen to Dissect, which is a podcast where this guy, he analyzes hip hop and R&B albums like really, really in detail, to the point where a lot of people tell him that he's reaching a lot of times, but I think he's so good and so on point. He recently did a dissect of Doechie's album, and then also did like this new episode came out where it was the first time he was interviewing an artist on the podcast, and he interviewed Doechie. Highly recommend. It's a really fun conversation to listen to if you're into music. So yeah, those are the things I've been listening to recently.
Those are two amazing recommendations. You know, I would put them in the OG category. Those two shows those are long running shows. You know, us being in the podcast field, I'm very familiar with both. And I don't think I've ever checked out Dissect, which I will, because I also love Doechie. So I'm very interested. Thank you for those recommendations. And did you reading? Is there anything?
Yeah, I'll tell you about a book that I'm reading right now. It is called The Forest of Enchantments by Chitra Banerjee. She's an Indian author. And the book is about, it kind of flips the narrative. Okay, so there's something called Ramayana, which is like a Hindu like mythology epic book, basically. It's taken as religious text. But it's written by this poet called Valmiki originally, and it's written in the context of Ram, who is considered like a god figure, right? So Chitra has written this book where she flips it so that the entire Ramayana story is written from the perspective of Sita, who is Ram's wife. And you don't get that narrative otherwise, because you've always heard about Ramayana from the male perspective, and now you're getting it from her perspective, which is quite different and really interesting. And she's written it in just the tone is really fun and engaging. And so, yeah, I've really, really enjoyed kind of reading something I've always known my whole life.
Yes.
Flipped that way. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, those are going to be on someone's list now after listening to this episode. I'm thrilled. Like we covered, you know, from R&B, you know, deep dives, and then, you know, your book recommendation, show the studio, absolutely love as well. I mean, there's so much in common, I think, with our interests, Bhumika, and I'm glad you joined us today. But before we let you go, is there anything big that's coming up for you? Anything that you want to share with our listeners, you know, as it relates to your work at the Malala Fund or anything else?
Yeah, I think I would just appreciate anyone who's listening checking out our work in general. Malala.org is where you can find us. We recently did a website revamp.
Yes.
And so
that's Bhumika.
I was quite busy with that recently. So yeah, if you want to check out my work, go to Malala.org. And then of course, you know, you can always check us out on socials. That's where me and my team live. So any platform at Malala Fund is great.
Yes.
If you're looking for engaging content, if you're looking to support our work, those are the places you'll find us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bhumika, for joining us on Impact After Hours.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. This was so fun.